Hello, ladies.
Hello.
The ladies of the podcast.
Oh.
Our hosts are our average girls here just making a podcast, you know? Here we are.
Making our way down. Oh.
Walking fast.
Oh.
Okay, interesting start to this episode, but we're here all the same. And guys, we have kind of a cool topic, I think, today. Maybe something that like you look at it and you're like, maybe a bit mundane, or maybe could be, or could be not mundane.
Wow, that was deep. Just kidding.
Tuesday. No, we're going to talk about something that I think like anyone who has been living a Christian life or walking with God for a while, or even recently, I guess, maybe this is something new to you. But we're going to be talking about like routines. So maybe you're like, oh, okay, that's really broad. What the heck is that? What does that mean? But I think in Christian life and in walking with God, there's a lot of things that we do like repetitively. We've talked about in other episodes like habits and what that looks like in our hobbies, but this is kind of like more specifically talking about in the Christian world or in our Christian lives, like what routines that we foster and what that looks like to walk with God. And I don't know, like I feel like that maybe is really broad and also can be really different depending on who it is, you know, and what that looks like. Because I know, at least in our base, we really value quiet time, and that's like something that is set in our timetable for our DTSs, you know, and every morning you'll like come downstairs and there's like everyone downstairs with their little like journals and whatever. But that can also look really different for different people. I know for me, I struggle to kind of do that in the morning times. So I come downstairs and everyone's journaling and I'm like, I can't connect right now. But yeah, so it can kind of look different depending on also your season or how you are in this time, whatever. So that's kind of our topic for today. Something interesting. So I guess to kind of start, it would be the question of hearing from us, like, what is Christian routine for you? Like, what are your like routines that you like do in your daily life that are in your walk with God? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Is that worded right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes
Okay,
sense.
cool.
Yeah. I think first, for those of you that are listening and you're like, oh, this is a mundane topic, I just first want to say, like, I really value actually these kinds of podcasts or topics in YouTube or whatever, because I feel like there's some like fundamentals of your walk with God that are never talked about. And then it's like, oh, but how do I do that? You know, like we talk about quiet time or devotional or whatever. And like you said, a little bit, like in case my box or my routine looks different than somebody else's, I can think that I don't have a capacity to connect with God.
Right.
But actually it's just that I'm made different, you know? So in case you're like, oh, I don't want to listen to this, no, keep listening. Because maybe God will inspire you. Maybe he'll encourage you in some kind of way. Not to do your Christian routine or your quiet time in the way that we do, but that it would even just give you a hunger to go and have quiet time with God, you know, have like that alone time with him. My routine, it varies. It varies on where I'm at in that day, because I'm a highly emotional person. And in case I'm too emotional,
It's really nicely put. Highly emotional.
yeah. What would you put?
No, I was just saying it's like really nicely put, like highly emotional.
Yeah, I'm highly emotional. So if I try to like process something with God in like a highly emotional state, like I can't write it. Like my hand doesn't move fast enough. Like it's just not gonna work. So my, like, I guess my routine, like, it really also varies on the time that I have, but I try, always to like, I do try to make time with God in the morning, maybe not like doing a Bible study or like journaling, but like, as we've talked about many times, we live in community. And so the only place that you have alone is the bathroom, my beloved bathroom. So there's many times that I like take a few minutes, like even just 2 minutes in the morning, and like get on my knees and say, God, I give you this day. I give you my life again. Like I become a Christian every day. Like, I don't know. I want you to have your way in my life today. I want your dreams fulfilled in my life today, blah, blah, blah. And then my routine of like how I process is kind of different, but I don't know. It's a hard question.
Mm.
Yeah, I think I always struggle with routines even before being a Christian. Like I always like to do different things, so I was never able to like, okay, this day I'll wake up at this time. Like I know so many people since I've been here, they have a whole routine of like I do this at this time and whatever, but I am just very chaotic. So like I do things in different ways. Like the only time to calm down is like before I go to bed and I like have my quiet time, or like it's when I can process, or like I can write things down that happen in the day, or like my prayers, or like I'm angry at this and like release everything. But it's true that it really depends on the day and like how tired I am, or like how, I don't know, busy or not busy or lazy also. That's a big one. And it also varies, like, because at the same time as we live in community and we have a schedule of things, like they do look similar every day, but at the same time every week is very different.
Yeah.
Like even though we want to have a routine, and it happens sometimes, we do have routines for a couple weeks, and then another week, like everything happened, like the world is falling, and it's like we have so many things and there's no time for everything. But I again, I don't think I have a routine that I can say like I do this at this time. Like the only thing I know is I wake up and I'm like, okay, I need a second, you know, and then I'll figure it out. But because again, I get really tired, like frustrated with routine when it looks the same and I don't have something fresh from God. And like I need to seek for it, but sometimes I'm like, I just want to have it, you know. I don't want to seek it all the time, because I'm like, I'm human, and I'm like, okay, I wake up, and also my brain is not working in the morning. I really admire people that can receive something at 8 in the morning, or like they can pray for hours, and I'm like, I need an hour. I'm really surprised by the people, to be honest. But I think it's like good to have some things that will also like always not make it part of like something that you have to do. Like I need to have my quiet time. If not, like my life is like a mess, or like I'm not a Christian. Like as we were saying before, I think quiet times or like life in general can be in different ways, like how you receive from God. And I think I do it like throughout the whole day. I cannot sit in a moment and just say like, I only receive from God now and I'm done. That's it. I think it's throughout the whole day, personally.
Yeah, I try to be organized in life. It just doesn't work because I'm like Flo, quite chaotic too. And I think also I get really bored like in, you know, the mundane or the like, I think especially in like the continuous like rhythm and building a rhythm. I think that's why I've never really been a fan of like I don't know, I guess a regular lifestyle where you have work, you know, and then you come back, you know, a 9 to 5 type of thing, because it just becomes so repetitive, you know, and I feel like it, you know, that's why I've never just done one thing. I do like 50 things, and like, you know, so I think I'm quite chaotic to have a rhythm as per se, but something that I've tried to be a bit more diligent with like lately is just like to like do like kind of like a touchdown, you know, and then I'm like, wait, when was the last time I did like a little touchdown, you know, because something that like growing up I thought, oh, you were supposed to have your quiet time, and confession, okay, I always thought, because I never really liked having quiet time when I was little, it was like fun, you know, it was like, okay, like, you know, it was I guess romantic, or it was romanticized a lot in church, whatever, like sitting down with your journal, especially for girls, sitting down with your journal, you know,
and like the beautiful journal,
with the flowers and your colorful pens and the highlighters, you know, so it was like this whole vibe, you know, and then the iPods came out, you know, and then you like had your iPod and you could shuffle through the music, you know, like, so you had the whole ambience prepared for that moment. But then for me, like the whole morning thing really didn't work. And I also really didn't like the idea of like, okay, we do this in the morning and then that's it. And so in one sense, the morning thing didn't really work out for me. But I also realized that in many ways, like I was just putting God in this one moment and in this one activity. And then after that, I was just kind of going about everything. And then it felt like 2 days ago, basically. But it was only just this morning that me and God were talking, you know? And so I started kind of like doing this like, okay, touchdown, and being like, okay, or like whatever I'm doing, like remembering, okay, right now I'm really annoyed, but like, okay, be annoyed for like at least a minute with God, you know? Okay, right now I'm having a lot of fun, and okay, but like take a minute to go and share about this fun time that you're having with God, you know? And it's become a little bit more of a habit. I can't say that like I'm brilliant at doing it, you know, but like, you know, just kind of trying to be like throughout the day and not just in that one moment, you know, to really make it real and to really make it relevant for my life as well and for everything that's happening. But yeah, I don't know. I think my favorite times to do it, like, and it could be because we live in community, is in the bathroom because I get alone time, and I know nobody's, although some people do kind of come in like trying to come in, like, you know,
It's the worst.
yeah, it's the worst. It's like, yeah, literally, you like cover up and you're like, I'm not even naked, but I'm gonna cover up anyway. Every time, always happens. No, but at the same time, that's the only place that you're like really like on your own, you know. And so when you're on your own, you're like, okay, yeah, like really take this in. It was really fun when we were in Bournemouth as well, because there was just a lot of like long walks as well, where or things like that moments where you knew that you were also alone, and you know, so that's why I'm also a night person, I think. I mean, I'm a night person because waking up early is too difficult for me. But I'm a night person also because like the house really winds down, you know, and there's nobody who's going to wake up at any moment, you know. It's a lot more rare than people kind of progressively waking up in the morning. So having those times in the night as well when I can just like be on my own and just kind of like talk with God is really fun for me. Yeah. To each their own.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm not like, I like routines in some ways, if that makes sense. Like I don't like it in all aspects of my life, but I do have like, I realize also the older that I get, the more that I love like my like skincare routine, you know, or like, I don't know, my going to bed routine. Like I don't know if I've always been like this. My family can fact check me. I have no idea, but I definitely like, I like my wind down, you know, or like the morning
with wine or no wine.
Confession time.
And I think probably because I'm more of a night person, like you, Julie. Like I think I prefer nighttime, and also that's usually when I have with like quiet time would be like in those moments when it's like later and I'm like cooled down from the day. Like mornings just they don't compute with me. And so I think like I like my routines in that, like I like having my my pillows the way that I always have them, and I like you know, I don't know, I like playing like my games before bed, you know, my Sudoku or whatever I'm playing at the moment, my solitaire. Yeah, I am a bit of a grandma. But I think maybe because of that, maybe because I like my routines in some ways, I feel like I can't, like when I try to do that with God, it just doesn't work. He doesn't allow it. Like maybe that sounds really strong, but I think he's also like, I want to like do something different every time, you know. I think I've talked about this before in an episode about, I think it was the Christian Events one, that like always like I try to strike the rock the same way, you know, and it never ends up working. Like that always happens to me with God, and I think like that's like partly because I do like routine, but I think I also like my boxes, you know, and my like structure, and God is always like, nope, not today, honey. Like, nice try, but it's not going to work with me, you know. You can play your solitaire, but we're going to do something different, you know. So I think like that is, for me, I have routines, and like I have like consistency in some ways. I think it's also something that I've like tried to grow in, and I'm still growing in. But like, I don't know. I wouldn't say that like I have necessarily a routine with like in my walk with God, because I feel like he's always doing something different or like getting me to do something different, or like I try to like pray the same way that I prayed yesterday, and God's just like, no. Nice try. Not gonna happen. We're gonna do something new, you know. So I feel like that a lot. Like God does new things. But I guess that kind of goes into my next question. Like, are there ways that like routines maybe can, of course, I think there's a lot of good things about routine and a
Yeah.
lot of good things also about tradition. Like,
For
I mean, if
sure.
you look at the Christian like history, a lot of that, like a lot of what we do is tradition and what we've been doing for hundreds of years, you know? And I think that's so beautiful. But I guess my question is like, are there ways that also routine can become unhealthy? Like, is there a thing kind of like what you mentioned too, you know, like having my quiet time and my Bible and my journal and my pens and my highlighters that all match and my coffee and then I'm going to post on Instagram. You know what I mean? Like, are there times also like, what do you see maybe in others or in yourself that like, they're like my routine has also maybe become not based on something solid.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's always important to shake things up. When we're comfortable, like we don't leave room for like in one sense, like the dependency in God, because we're just like everything is curated. But at the same time, we are not leaning onto God and like in a way where we're dependent on him because we don't need him.
Right.
You know, we have kind of created even in our preparation for encountering him, we have prepared how we want to encounter him. Do you know what I mean? Like by having my book and things in that way, you know? So, but at the same time, I think it is important to have that. So I think if you're comfortable, it's a really good sign to kind of say, I think you should change something about what you're doing, you know? Because not that God doesn't want you to be comfortable, but maybe you need to adjust something so that you can be expectant, you know, and you could like also not miss out. You know, I think sometimes when we're so comfortable in that routine and stuff, we're not expectant to the unknown because we are in the known, you know. So, you know, so I'm not saying that one is bad and one is right. I don't think if you are somebody who is has their books, their journals, their highlighters, if that's you, like there's no condemnation. I'm not coming at you. Really, I'm not. Maybe I'm not like that, but I do need that, you know. And there's been moments where I've needed to bring order, and there's been moments where I've also needed to leave room for freedom and for God to move, you know. When I was on DTS, it was very important for me to have that consistency of waking up before, and actually in my DTS we did quiet time before we did breakfast, or at least maybe I did that, you know. And for me that like did something really great, and I would have loved to have like continued that, and maybe I did for a season, but then things changed, you know. And we've also all experienced that when we go home and we start jobs or have other things happen in life, we can't always do the things in the same way. But I think that also brings an opportunity for us to see God in areas and in places where perhaps we weren't really looking, you know. Like I love to do really mundane things and actually like bring God into it, you know. Like I love chopping onions, and then suddenly I'm like crying and I'm like, God, why did you make onions to like make us cry, you know? And then I'm having a deep conversation with God about onions, you know. But like it turned into a quiet time, but that it started with something so silly, you know. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's not wrong, but I think a way to check if you're going in the right track is also to see if you're uncomfortable or too comfortable, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
I think it all comes down to motivations. And I know that we talk about that a lot, but if my motivation is like to curate the perfect quiet time so that I can post it on my Instagram, like actually God's not in the middle of that, you know? If my motivation is like, oh, if I don't have my quiet time, or in that particular way, or if I don't have a quiet time alone, because I think that happens a lot, especially in our community, you know, that trainees will come for a DTS program and they realize like they can't have quiet time alone, like in a room by themselves. And it's like, now I can't feel God, you know? And so it's like, I think when our motivations or our way of thinking is really boxed, then we also end up boxing God. So I don't know that there's like something bad about traditional or more routine. I think in this whole conversation already, I'm super convicted about how undisciplined I am. And actually I want to be more consistent. I won't wake up early tomorrow because we're filming this podcast and it's 12:30 at night. So I won't wake up early tomorrow and I need to be working in this cafe in like 7 hours. But I want to get better at that actually, like not so that I can be traditional or in my routine, but I was actually having a Zoom the other day with a student who's coming, or a trainee who's coming for DTS in October. And it was 6 o'clock in the morning, her time. And so we were sitting there, and she has like her Bible out, and she has her little blanket and her cup. And I was like, I don't know, you know, the smell of rain, like, but the nice rain, not like London rain, but like the smell of like a nice
London rain is so good. Take it back.
Because I mean like that really fresh, like piney rain
Like
smell,
in the
like
forest.
that
type of
feels
rain.
really fresh and new. Like it was almost like I could smell that on her, like through Zoom. I don't know if that makes any sense, or if I'm just being really weird at this hour of night, but like I want that, you know? So I don't know that there's like something bad with tradition or good. I think if your heart is seeking God in whatever capacity, like I think that's important. But I also think God really loves that discipline. I think he loves when we sacrifice to wake up early in the morning, or to stay up late in the night, or to bring him a part of mundane things. Like I think that brings a lot of joy to him, you know? So in your question, that's like, what is your question?
Like, are there healthy, like, what is a healthy routine, and what would you say is like necessarily unhealthy?
Yeah.
Like, is there unhealthiness in that, you know?
Yeah. I think everything comes down to the heart, you know? Because also if I, like I said in a previous podcast, if I go for a run with God, but actually my whole time I'm like, oh, I hope I'm running fast enough, and I hope I'm burning enough calories. Like, it's not a nice, like, healthy, quiet time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think it can look like that with anything. Even things that look externally beautiful, actually they can be with a bad motivation.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I also think there's something really beautiful in the, like I said, in being consistent and in the discipline of tradition and like Bible study. Like all of us have said we struggle to read the Bible, which is valid. And I think God is understanding of that. But also, like, that's for me like a shout to my own heart of like, I need to go read the Bible more, to be honest. Like, I want to have a hunger for the Bible, and I don't know. I'm rambling now, so I'm going to quit. But I think you get my point.
I think I'm always very, very careful, because when I came here, something that really shocked me, it was in church, like everyone would pray the same way. And like they had the same prayer. Or like they will say, okay, Jesus, have your way. Or they would just sit there for like 1 minute. They're like, okay, we're done. Let's go to the next thing. And I'm like, oh, there's no space for the Holy Spirit to move. And like, I don't know if that like also can be unhealthy or something, but like I think in like routine, that our prayers become routine. Our like mindset also becomes a routine. Like the way, even, I don't know, we prepare stuff for going to the toilet. Like it's different. Like we have different routines that we don't realize. And like, if I don't do it this way, I'm not going to be like happy. Or like if I don't do, I don't know, my skincare in the way that I normally do, I'm going to wake up really like grumpy or something. Like I think it becomes to everything that we do. And like, if I don't eat the breakfast that I like I'm not going to be satisfied the whole day. Or like if I didn't have the dinner or the food that I wanted, like in some ways it becomes another routine that you don't realize that also becomes unhealthy or healthy, like however you want to put it. Or like even with our friendships or relationships, like also they can become a routine in our Christian environment and life that can also become unhealthy, you know? And sometimes we don't realize. And like we're talking about bringing God and reading more the Bible, but also like the lifestyle that we have. There we go. That was a complicated one. It's a struggle. We're doing great. I don't know. It can also become like part of who we are. But then when we take it out, it's like, oh, but actually my whole life is supposed to be about God, and I'm making it about me, my routine. And like, I don't know, your routine is like, I'm going to Tesco, and that's my goal. And then, I don't know, God is like, you need to talk to this person. I'm like, no, but I'm going to Tesco. I need to go and buy this. I don't have time for this. Like, no, I'm asking you to do this, like, out of love, you know, not in a way of like, you have to do it. But that's a lifestyle, like, again.
Lifestyle.
That's a life that we have. Like, we say, like, Lord, have your way in the morning. And then God is saying something in the middle of the day. And you're like, no, I'm too busy right now. Oh, I'm too lazy. I don't want to do it. Oh, I want to take a nap. But it's like, okay, so why do you pray in the morning? Like, you wanted to, like, walk with me. And now you're, like, running away from me. It's like, oh, shit, I need to go back, you know? And I think I become in that routine, like, so easily, you know? Like, oh, I'm going to Kaleo. I'm going to cook. Or I'm in Kaleo, and I'm going to pray maybe for someone. But that's everything I'm going to do. But then sometimes God is like, talk to the people you work with. I'm like, oh, but I live with them, like I know them. And sometimes I talk to them, I'm like, I had no idea you were going through this. Like, I'm so
Yeah.
sorry, you know?
Yeah.
Like my routine, my mindset, everything was about me and like how I was feeling, how I woke up, how my family's doing or stuff like that. But actually like living the Bible, living like with God is like just be present with like the people you have around or like the environment. Like, I don't know, like I feel like sometimes people come, they're like, I have this revelation this morning, quiet time. I'm like, wow, that's great. Like, I wish we were more open about that, you know? Because sometimes I'm scared to like say something like it was revealed to me because it looks very simple. But for me, like it brought so much like freedom and stuff. But like maybe for someone who wrote the Bible like for so long and knows everything about the Bible, it's like, oh yeah, that happened because of this. And I'm like, okay, that wasn't the point. I received that, you know,
Yeah.
like I wanted to share this, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Sometimes we feel like I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to get now, but anyways, yeah.
That makes sense. It makes sense because I think what you're both saying is really connected. Like, I think many times we forget that the point is also, like what you're saying, it's about the motivation, which is what's in our heart. And many times in our heart, what's there is actually just us. And actually, like, God's not there. So when we come to encounter God, when we do our routine, everything flows from us. It's about us. But, like, at what point also are we having quiet time just to, like, hear what God has to say about me even, but also hear, like, what's going on in God's day, you know? Like, we used to use this sample or idea or example really when teaching, talking about hearing the voice of God, like a bell that like is stuffed with a bunch of cotton balls, you know, and so you can't hear the ringing, you know. And I think many times the cotton balls is like us, like our thoughts, our, you know, what we're saying, all of these different things, and to the point where we can't hear the bell, we can't hear the Holy Spirit, we can't hear what God is saying, you know, because we're just blah, 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 and like shoving so much up it, you know. And I think it's because we're so self-centered and we really forget about God, you know.
Yeah, I think even as you're asking, like, what is a healthy routine and what's an unhealthy one, like one that we often don't practice is like personal worship, you know, like just worship by myself in the morning. We make worship like about, like, I'm gonna be really honest, I'm really like over the songs that are all about me. Like there's one, 100%. I forget how it goes right now. It's like, I am loved, I am free, I am whole. I'm like, who am I singing to? You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Surely like there's a great moment to sing that. So if you are the writer of that song, like please don't take offense. But I just mean, like, I feel like there's in that self-centeredness, sometimes our alone times with God are actually just a lot of talking about ourselves to ourselves, and then being like, right, God, and he's like, actually no. But a healthy routine is like just worshiping for worship, not worship so that I can receive a blessing, not worship so that I can feel the presence of God, not worship so that I can cry, but worship for worship, like just to adore him. And out of that will come something or not, but it's not about me, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that is a great, like, healthy routine to get in the habit of, is like worshiping God and giving God my time, like whether or not I receive something in return, you know?
Yeah, I think also like an important part of routine is, like you were saying, the consistency, you know? And I think often if we're talking about worship, oh my goodness, sorry, probably you can't hear that, but people are shouting outside. I hope they're okay. But yeah, like it's the consistency and of doing it over and over and over again, you know? And often, like, for me, sometimes in worship, I'm like, God, I don't want to sing this song, or maybe it's a song I don't like, you know, or it's something deeper, you know,
Or the way somebody's singing it.
or the way someone's singing. Yeah, no, just kidding. Or for whatever reason, you know. But it's always in those moments where I like push through and I persevere, and I'm like, no, God, I still want to worship you.
Yeah.
Immediately he shows up, you know, immediately. And I think that that's also like something that's really like that I really value about routine. And I think it can be so healthy is the pushing through, even when you don't feel it, you know,
100%.
even when my quiet time, I feel like it's so dry or reading the Bible is so dry. I don't care. I'm going to push through, you know. I think that's also something that's really deeply rooted in like the Christian faith in a lot of ways, you know, is like this tradition of we're going to like we're going to worship no matter what, you know, and we're going to like be here no matter what. Every Sunday I'm going to be here, you know, like, and I think that that's actually something that's really, really beautiful. And something that I, like you said, like I want to walk in more, you know, it's like pushing through even when I don't feel it, you know, because I think right now, especially like we're really based on feeling, you know, like even what you were saying, Flo, like, oh, do like, it's about me. Like, do I want to do this today? You know, like I want to do it my way. I want to go to Tesco and I don't want to be stopped, you know, that's, that's like really me centered and me and my feelings centered, you know, and how often I like don't have quiet time because I don't feel like it, you know, or I don't do my routine because I don't feel like it today. It's like, it's not about feeling, you know, and I think that that's something that like I think is really, really valuable, you know, in routine of doing something over and over again, no matter what like what you feel or what your circumstances are or what, you know, like what's around you, like I'm gonna do it anyway, you know. And
I just think how much that blesses God's heart, you know, like how sometimes tiring it can be when people only want to be around you and they take something from you, you know, or when they want to be around you because like it uplifts them in that moment, you know. So how much of a blessing it must be for him, like for God, when we go consistently even when we don't want to, because we just love him, you know. And he's like, I know, like I don't know, I feel like what a display of love that is. Love isn't only like in worship when I put my hands up or something, but what a display of worship to keep showing up even when it's like there's no like fruit necessarily, you know. So I feel like that's also why you said God shows up immediately. It's because he feels so loved, you know. He like is receiving also your love. I don't know if that makes sense, but
no, for sure.
This reminds me of something we were having a Bible time a couple months ago, and Maddie said like one day she was like, God, have your way, and you had like a fasting day or something like that, and you like went out of your routine and like everything you normally do, but you received so much from God, you know. And like I'm not saying the routine is bad, but like that routine that you had one day needed to be changed to have like that freshness again, you know. And I was so inspired by it because I was like, wow, I need to be more sensitive to the Holy Spirit, you know, like to like also give that space to like not just to receive but to give to God, you know. I think that was very beautiful. Thank you.
Thanks, Flo. Crying.
Moving on to our next question. It's obviously quite connected, but like you mentioned earlier, Julie, like how you'll be cutting onions, you know, and then all of a sudden God's speaking to you about, I don't know, whatever. And like my question is, are there things that maybe like in your Christian routine or however that looks for you in your walk with God or your quiet times or whatever, like that maybe look a little untraditional, you know? Like, I don't know. Well, I mean, when I first came to do DTS, I had quiet time. I never called it quiet time because I had no idea what the heck quiet time was, you know? I remember coming and we had intercession and I was like, I don't know what that is. And I fully pretended like I knew what it was, but I had no clue what that word was, never heard of it before.
And then they're like, it's prayer. And I was like,
oh, okay, I do that. You know? But I don't know, I remember being like, quiet time, like what the heck is this quiet time, you know? So anything for me was kind of untraditional because I wasn't really coming from much, but like I don't know, are there things or like ways that you connect with God that maybe you're like, I wonder if anyone else like understands this, you know? Or does anyone else like experience this, you know?
Well, first of all, in Spanish, quiet time has you say it in two ways, or at least in Argentina we say it in two ways. We say quiet time, and we also say alone time. Tiempo a solas, which is why I think there's also that, like, I guess, association that you have to be alone in order to have that time with God, you know?
Right.
And that kind of goes into that thing that I was going to say now, that I have tried to be a lot more intentional in having times with God when I'm not alone as well, when I'm with people, and like making it a part of like my being with God. And I think it can be a little bit difficult and different, you know, because I think sometimes, and it's true, and the Bible talks about having that, you know, like praying in your room with the door closed, you know, and on your bed, you know, like the Bible does talk about that, and like there being, you know, in your quiet, in your secret place, like an encounter with God, and that is important. But I think it's also really important to have that encounter with God in moments in public, in moments where like you're with people. And I think it's difficult to do for sure, because it's like I don't know about you, but sometimes I struggle to listen to two people talk at the same time. So imagine me having a conversation with you and then like listening to God, you know, it's like to one of you, I'm going to be like, sorry, what? You know? So that is difficult. However, something or like an area, something that I kind of already mentioned it, but that I really like to kind of have moments where I encounter God specifically, like, and make him a part of things, is when I'm doing anything practical, specifically in areas where like I get my hands busy. So whether it's in the kitchen or whether it's in the garden, because I love gardening, with flowers, with art, whatever it may be, I always love to just kind of make God a part of it, you know, and also like verbally process as well, like what I'm kind of talking to God about at the same time. And sometimes I'll space out because I'm listening to what God is saying and people are still talking to me. So I'm sorry if that's new. But yeah, like, I don't know, I think for me, it's also like, maybe it's a season that I am in life. Maybe that's going to change. I don't know. But like, I think it's important to also like, yes, have God the Father and relate with God the Son as well, but also relate with God and the aspect of the Holy Spirit as a friend, you know, as well. I think it's important to have all of those types of relationships with God, you know. And I think the only way you can experience those or aspects of God is in the different aspects of your day and in the different stages of your life as well, you know. I was going to say this earlier, but might be a bit exposing, but I said before, you know, I'm quite a bit more chaotic and don't have a lot of structure in a sense. But I have, maybe it's not realistic, but I have always thought, okay, when I get married, and obviously I have children and stuff, and I'll have my own little home, then I'm going to wake up in the morning and I'm going to make myself a cup of tea, and I am going to be that Instagrammable girl with her coffee and her tea and her, you know, Bible and whatever. And I think in many ways I've kind of like waited for that moment, and I'm 30 and I still haven't hit that moment. So I'm like postponing that, like, I guess, order, if you like, or consistency, like Maddie was saying before. But I think we can have that for sure in other moments. So I'm like, I guess I'm trying to see now how I can achieve that, but without like giving it like, I guess, that expectation that I had before, where it has to be in that way, you know? So, okay, like making God a part of every moment, but even those moments where before I wouldn't have thought of, you know, and like, you know, kind of having like a quiet time about that or stuff. And something that I also really like to do, I don't know, I think Flo, you were kind of mentioning that about like talking with people about like those revelations that you've had with God, you know, like I try to, it's also a downfall, I guess, a bit of my personality. Like I always just randomly say what I'm thinking, but I do like want to continue, and I do like that when I've received a revelation about something that God's been speaking to me while cutting onions, and I verbally say that out loud as well. Because I think also part of that personal fellowship with God should also reflect in my relationships and fellowships with other people as well. So maybe it's not something that's like not so conventional, but it's, I guess it's not the first place where you would, you know, or like, yeah, the first instances where you would normally. I don't know if that answers the question, but yeah, that's my take.
I've had some very deep quiet times, some very deep processing times while cleaning.
Yeah.
Did this recently. It was an interesting day on, what was that, Monday?
Yeah.
And I ripped out all of my clothes in my wardrobe, everything in my drawers, like every single thing that I own, clothing and beyond, was on my floor. And then I just sat there and I prayed for a while.
Really?
It was great. Yeah, I have pictures. I'll show you later. It was a great time. It was quite an emotional time. But yeah, I think that's one of the ways that I really enjoy connecting with God is through cleaning. I feel like he cleans my heart at the same time that I'm cleaning a room. But also, I don't know, I'm like doing something that is like moving my body and I'm able to hear him, which is good.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's similar to what both of you said. It's always when I'm doing something. Like,
Yeah.
I don't receive anything by just sitting there and like looking at the space. I can't. Like, I need to be doing something with my hands or like moving my body, and I'm like, oh wow, this is what it means. You know, like when I'm serving something or when I'm like talking or cooking or cleaning. Cleaning is the best one. Like, especially my room. Every 3 months, I also do that. Take everything
Today.
out. Like today, yes. I like move everything, you know. I take every single dust that is in my room and like.
It's the best.
For context, my room is next to Flo's, and this morning all I heard was like boom, boom, baka, baka. And I was like, either somebody died or like something's happening. And I walked out, and there was so many things outside of the room, so I was like, somebody's
Got it.
cleaning.
Yeah. I literally take everything because that's the only way that I can also think what like is inside of my brain, you know? Like I moved something and I moved something that was inside of my brain. I was like, okay, we need to go through this, you know? I think that's like a way. Also like looking at the ocean that I don't have clothes or the sky also like helps me.
Yeah.
Even though I say I don't look at the space. But anyways, contradicting myself.
Yeah, I feel the same sometimes. Like I think there are times where I need to be doing something, or like in some ways it is kind of prophetic, like cleaning out my room or you know whatever. But also I feel like sometimes I get so wrapped up in what I'm doing that I like am not like thinking. I think we were talking about this recently, like how some people have really deep quiet times in the shower.
Yeah.
And I just
Yeah.
like somehow I like go on autopilot. I'm like I black out for my whole shower.
Yeah.
I wake up and I'm
Somebody,
like
I saw a meme that was like, I dissociate in the shower.
yeah, for real.
It's really dramatic, but like kinda.
But kinda.
Yeah.
I don't
Um,
understand.
Yeah.
I love the shower.
I think again going back to routine, I think it's because I've got my routine down to like
Yeah.
every second that I know like what my steps are.
Yeah.
That like I just don't even think I go on autopilot and like I just do it, you know? So sometimes that's like, it's like I have those moments where if I'm doing something, you okay? If I am like doing something, it helps me, but then other times it really doesn't. Like I think also sometimes I distract myself, you know, like I'm cleaning and like trying to avoid what God's saying to me, you know?
Yeah,
that's true.
you can get overly busy
Yeah.
and then like really forget about what it was that you were meant to be doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Anyways, I think that's gonna wrap up our episode.
Yeah.
You guys can let us know any untraditional ways that you find God in your daily life. We'd love to hear it, and we would also love to hear back from you if there's any like topics that you want to hear, any feedback at all. We like love hearing from you guys. So, yeah, I think that wraps up this episode.
Sounds good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
See you next time.
See ya.
Bye.